Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado, and we're back with another segment of Harmonize Your Life, conversations on self-care for women of color. Okay, here we go. We have another fabulous, dynamic woman that I want to have a conversation with today. We are going to be talking with Jada Right Nichols. Jada is an Atlanta-based women's wellness consultant. She graduated from Tennessee State University with a bachelor's degree in speech pathology and audiology. She has a master's degree in occupational therapy and has worked in a variety of rehabilitation settings across the lifespan. Additionally, she is a massage therapist, a lymphedema therapist, holistic nutritionist, birth and postpartum doula, yoga instructor, and international board certified lactation consultant. She is the owner of Blossom Health and Maternal Wellness, which provides in-home and virtual services for new and expectant families as they navigate various aspects of parenting. I'm so excited to have Jada kick off the month of May with us because this is our motherhood series that we're going to be doing this month. And I couldn't think of anyone better to help us kick off this month, this motherhood series, this celebration of motherhood, other than our guest on today, Jada Right Nichols. Welcome, Jada.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
So, Jada, you have so much going on here. I mean, all of the things that you're doing, massage therapist, lymphedema therapist, holistic nutritionist, and all the work you do with postpartum. You're a postpartum doula, yoga instructor, and I have experienced you personally as a yoga instructor, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we progress in our conversation. But talk to us about Blossom Health and Maternal Wellness. What is that all about?
Okay, so Blossom Health and Maternal Wellness, and yes, it does seem like a lot, but I promise it's all connected. So I started my career as an occupational therapist, and I was working with infants in the neonatal intensive care unit. I've worked with women who are breast cancer survivors who have a specialized condition who can have a specialized condition called lymphedema. I worked with children with ADHD and autism, and all of those aspects of rehabilitation led me to holistic nutrition because parents and families would often ask, I have this condition or my child has this condition. Is there anything that we can do nutrition-wise to help maybe not take so many medications or supplements or heal faster? And simply as an occupational therapist, I had no idea that's outside of our scope. But I was a little bit I guess, and I knew nutrition well enough to take care of myself, and they trusted me with the information. So I ended up becoming a holistic health coach or holistic nutritionist, and that really opened up this I guess, opportunity where I saw the need to more holistically support moms and families. So I became a yoga instructor. I had already been a massage therapist. I became a massage therapist before I went to graduate school.
Okay.
And so I had been a massage therapist for years at that point. And so I just started to incorporate more and more. So my first business really was fitness, massage, and nutrition for anyone. But certainly most of my clientele were women, working women, typically busy women who needed specialized timing of their services or specialized attention, meal prep, nutrition plans.
Okay.
And
So do you go to your clients yourself? I mean, do you go to their home or do you have a center? They come to you or you go to them?
so it is mobile, and this has always been the case, where we either meet in the community. So that may be a grocery store for a tour, or it may be their favorite restaurant, and we can sit and talk about making healthy choices from the restaurant. And I've been doing this since before they had all the cute little icons next to the menu items to help with what we should and perhaps should not be eating. But yes, it's all mobile and certainly into homes. And so the services are provided really anywhere that the client is. I've gone to workplaces
Mm-hmm.
for employee health and things like that. So I did that while working as an occupational therapist in a traditional hospital and starting a lymphedema clinic within that hospital, the outpatient clinic, and also a pelvic floor therapy clinic. So this is helping uh, primarily women who have birthed the baby or just given birth and might have some lingering weakness or perhaps even pain, incontinence, things like that to help them heal a little bit faster and more completely.
Okay. Okay. And do you find, let me ask you this. How do you feel when it comes to this whole maternal wellness, and particularly as relates to women of color? Tell me why having someone like you on our team is so important.
So I really just started delving into this part of the work because I knew that it was untapped
Okay.
in the birth world as a whole, really in this country and other parts of the world. It's done just as a matter of fact. But I knew that this was something that not a lot of women had just had exposure to. And in fact, not a lot of physicians even know to refer someone to pelvic floor therapy. Well, when I started working in more specifically in maternal health, both pelvic floor therapy and then later with lactation work in particular, I started really understanding the disparities in uh, infant mortality and
Mm-hmm.
maternal mortality. So,
Mm-hmm.
Black women in particular in this country are dying within a year of childbirth. So that could
Mm-hmm.
be in childbirth,
Mm-hmm.
immediately after, a few days after childbirth, and up
Mm-hmm.
to a year, there can still be postpartum complications. We're dying at rates 2, 3 in some counties and some municipalities, 4 or 5 times the rate of white women,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we're dying at rates of war torn countries and
Wow. Wow.
famished countries. That is why I stay, and will
Right.
probably it will take a lot for me to depart from maternal health and Black maternal health specifically because there is such a great need. Um, in April, we actually have a week that's called Black Maternal Health Week, and it is an opportunity to bring these disparities to light. It's to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate birth workers of color, but more so to bring these disparities to light. And so we've been talking about, uh, these issues from grassroots on up
Mm-hmm.
for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in the face of COVID 19, we're seeing where these issues are magnified on even a greater scale. So, when
Wow.
people were surprised that Black people and Black women were being impacted more greatly uh, through this pandemic, when initially it was thought, oh, we can't get it, or we're
Mm-hmm.
immune to it, or whatever those early myths were. I was saying, no, no, no. Whatever everybody else is getting, it impacts us completely, wholly. It decimates
Mm-hmm.
us. Florida
Mm-hmm.
Evans on Good Times said, when America catches a cold, Black people get the flu. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're in a global pandemic, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we are impacted. Our parents are impacted. Our babies are impacted, and
At alarming
so
rates. At alarming
at
rates.
alarming
Mm-hmm.
rates. And
Mm-hmm.
it's about our access to care, our access to tests in the case of COVID. It's about the the places in which we live, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we have to social distance, I can social distance in my home really if I needed to because I've got several bedrooms, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a place where you're multi generational in
Mm-hmm.
a two bedroom apartment, lots of community living, lots of interdependence within the community, it's
Mm-hmm.
more difficult to distance socially. If
Mm-hmm.
you're relying on public transportation, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot get on a MARTA train in Atlanta or a subway in New York and be 6 feet from
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. If
Exactly.
you if you're working on the front lines, and for me that's a healthcare provider, but also a cashier at Walmart or Publix.
Mm-hmm.
So they are dependent upon those jobs. I am my own job.
Mm-hmm.
There might not be the access or the total care for the early use of, again, in this case, the masks or other protective gear for these individuals who can least afford to take even a day off work, or who can least afford to take time off to recover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes the work that you do as a doula, as a postpartum, and I love what you called it, birth worker. That makes the
Yes.
work that you do, so you and those that are involved in this type of work, so important. I remember, now it's been years. Of course, I'm 50. I'll be 57 in a few days,
Wow.
and so my baby is 21. So I don't have.
Wow.
I'm out of the
Well,
birth.
you look amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I work hard, but so I haven't been in the childbearing way in 20 in over 20 years since
Mhm.
my baby Ariel is 21.
Mhm.
I had my first child though, my first birth child at the age of 34. So
Mhm.
my oldest son is 23. I was 34 when I had him, and then we adopted Joshua. He's 22, and then Ariel was born 15 months later, and so she was 36. And I remember when I was because I was over 30, I remember I was considered high risk.
High risk. Yes.
Uh-huh. And of course, I was, because I had health care, I was able to go to, at that time we had Kaiser Permanente. We were a part of Kaiser for years until recently. But I had a midwife that I
Right.
saw throughout my pregnancy, and was with me as I was delivering. I had C-sections in both cases. It was not planned. The first one was not planned, but it was an emergency C-section. And then with Ariel, it was planned because my doctor felt that it would be best, since I had had one before, that I
Right.
should do it. I should not try vaginal birth with
Right.
her. And so it's been years since I have been in that way.
Mhm.
However, um, I'm a pastor, I'm a community leader, and I have a daughter. I have now a daughter-in-law, and so I have sisters and nieces and cousins and things of that nature. So they're having babies,
That's
and
right.
so I wanted to have this conversation as we kick off the May motherhood series, to talk about this whole maternal health, and
Mhm.
the things that we need to be looking at as Black women. So I know for me what some of the things were 20 something years ago, but where we are today, what are some of the common um, things that, or concerns that you think our women who are in the family way, as our older generation would say, or
Right.
in that birthing years, that are childbearing years, what are some things that we need to be considering, for those that are listening to this podcast? What should we be considering?
Yeah. So I think that anytime a woman is uh, is able to conceive, anytime she is doing whatever needs to be done to potentially
Mm-hmm.
conceive a child,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good time for her to just be taking care of herself, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the place where it's the first home of the baby. So that home not only needs to be fertile for the implantation to happen, but it also needs to be a place where you would want to uh,
Mhm.
grow
Mhm.
and be birthed from. So the year, so I will share that when I was 29 years old, I was diagnosed with uh, polycystic ovaries, which a lot of African American women have,
Mhm.
whether we know it or not.
Mhm.
And at the same time, and I was childless and unmarried. And at the same time, I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. So that meant
Premature
that
ovarian failure. Mhm.
failure, yes.
Mhm.
So that meant that my hormones at that age were so out of balance that I was heading into a very early menopause. And because I was unmarried, childless, unattached, even at the time, that was looking like I probably would not be able to conceive by the time all of those things came into play.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And so I spent a good bit of my 30s believing that I could not conceive, that, um, that it just would not happen. I also considered adoption. I considered freezing my eggs. I considered all of these aspects to being able to be a mother, become a mother. And let me just say that although we're celebrating Mother's Day, I totally understand that. And being a mother is a tremendous gift,
Mhm.
but it does not mean that it is the only thing that women can be or should
Mhm.
strive to be, and it's not
Exactly.
for
Mhm.
every woman.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to be a mother really to show my mother that I was paying attention to her. I don't think there's another way to show it. Um, but I got into a relationship. It was seeming like it was becoming pretty serious, and I didn't know that I was planning to have a child. I still thought that we would need help, but I did take that time to. I did I fasted for several months.
Mhm.
I was running a half marathon once a month. And in that, when you're doing that kind of intense training, you're just making healthier food choices altogether, drinking only water, so no sodas, no sugary drinks,
Mhm.
no
Mhm.
alcohol.
Mhm.
I even had all of my old cavities replaced with
Mhm.
new pretty ceramic cavities. I did all of the things. And then ended up married and pregnant almost right away. After thinking that it would happen and we'd have a few years to kick it, travel, see the world before settling down to get help to have this baby. So this baby came and all is well. That to say, taking care of the womb, taking care of the woman
Mhm.
is just a great place to start, whether the conception has been confirmed or not. So and knowing that you're pregnant, you can probably relate to this. It really is just a time where you really go inward
Mhm.
and every decision.
Mhm.
I tell my daughter now, her 7-year old self, I tell her now, since the day I found out that I was pregnant with you, which happened to have been on
Wow.
Mother's Day 2012, I was supposed to be treating my own mother to a meal and went to the grocery store to find some items and felt nauseous, dropped the items off at her house, went back out, ran to CVS, took a test,
Wow.
and
Wow.
here that was Mother's Day 2012. But I tell my daughter, since I found out that I was pregnant with you, I have not made a single decision in my life that has not involved you or considered you. So from that time, everything that I ate, everything that I drank, everywhere that I went, every position that I slept in, and today everywhere that I go, every dollar that I spend,
Mhm.
every
Mhm.
trip that I make, all of the things are about this this child, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So and that starts with just knowing that you're expecting a child. So it is about taking care of yourself, because that's the only way that we can do it before we can see the baby, before those
Right,
40
right.
weeks happen,
Mhm.
right? Is to
Mhm.
just take care of ourselves, take our prenatal vitamins. And I recommend that women in their 20s and 30s take prenatal vitamins as their daily multivitamin. There's
Mm.
nothing wrong with it. That can happen, and then even after uh, having the baby, take the multivitamin, take the prenatals while breastfeeding. There's
Wow.
nothing wrong with that. It's super
Mhm.
beneficial.
Mhm.
Um, Also, finding time. I'm saying I'm pouring all this stuff into this child, but this self care, this time away, this meditation,
Mhm.
exercise, all of those aspects to self care are also very beneficial. In fact, our motto at Blossom is, we take care of mom so that mom can take care of baby,
Say that
right?
again. We take care of
We take care
mom.
of mom so that
Mhm.
mom can take care of the baby,
Right,
because
right.
it takes a village
Mhm.
to raise these kids, but we don't necessarily need all the aunties and all the big mamas and all the well-meaning sisters to come
Mhm.
over and put their hands and lips all over the baby,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Sometimes we just need the dishes handled so
Mhm.
that we can better care
Mhm.
for this
Mhm.
baby and not have to stress about the dishes. So that's uh, some of where the postpartum doula work comes into play. So with the doula work, that's a birth assistant. So doulas don't deliver babies by any stretch. Your midwife does. Your
Mhm.
midwife and an OB, those practitioners, professionals help to birth the baby. The doula is a birth assistant, and her job, his job in some cases, is to just keep the mom comfortable and grounded and safe,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
advocate for the mom during the birthing process.
Okay.
The post the postpartum doula, though, comes in after the birth, after mom is back home if she did birth in a hospital, or if she's settled in home after her home birth,
Mhm.
and can come in. A postpartum doula could organize the nursery, or could change a diaper while mom sleeps, or just look after the baby while mom takes a shower, because showers in the early days can be few and far between and
Mhm.
you might not
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
realize it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can occupy the other children. So it's whatever is needed to just make being a new mom with that baby more manageable.
Now,
So that's
what's amazing is I'm listening to you talk about the doula piece, particularly the postpartum doula. Back in the day, we had women that would come over to the house and do those things after a
that's right.
mom had a baby, and so now that seems like a whole profession now. Of
It's a whole
It's a whole
it's a whole
profession.
it's a whole profession. It's just like we used to have midwifery
Mhm. Mhm.
is
It's
a
ancient.
profession. It's
Mhm.
ancient,
Mhm.
right? It's one of the very first professions
Mhm.
ever,
Mhm.
and around before obstetrics,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it is it black midwives were delivering all the babies.
Sure were. Sure were. I do a sermon on midwives, and I use those midwives in the book of Exodus,
Yes,
Pua and Shifra, and I talk about the whole ministry of the midwife. But yes,
yes,
that's an ancient profession.
yes,
And
it
in our
is.
community, that at one point, that's all we had.
It's all we had to deliver at home
Mm-hmm.
with that midwife. We call them granny midwives
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
and today it is very tough for a black woman to become a midwife, to become a respected midwife, to become a professional midwife or a
Wow.
nurse midwife. There are so many barriers. The same with lactation, right? We
Wow.
used to, so I'm a lactation consultant as well. As what I do mostly right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, breastfeeding is something that, number one, in this country, we used to breastfeed
Mm-hmm.
our slave masters' children.
Yes, we
And
did.
they'd get the breast milk before
Mm-hmm.
our own children got
Mm-hmm.
the breast milk, and
That's the
sometimes at the
truth.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we would support each other with breastfeeding. And today, there are, I think we're somewhere at 1.5% of all of the lactation consultants in the entire world, because we have an international certification. Well, about 1.5% are African American.
Wow.
Yep.
So we need more of us going into this work.
We need more of us going into this work, and there are many of us who want to do this work, but there are barriers to becoming a midwife. There are barriers to becoming a lactation consultant. A lot of it is a good old girl system where if I'm interested in this career path, I also need a mentor, which is somebody who's willing to spend a lot of time with me, educating me, letting me follow her around, and then slide me some of her clients when it's time. So.
Wow. So that's what I was going to ask you. So how did you navigate some of those barriers? So mentoring, which is something that we need to get back to in our community.
Yes. So I became the abbreviation is IDCLC. I became an IDCLC in Memphis, which is where I had my daughter. And there were about 4 or 5 IBCLCs, lactation consultants, who were actively working. And so I reached out to each one of them. None of them were of color. I reached out to them, and everyone was too busy. So I began, or did not think that I was serious. And so I began to reach out to consultants and professionals in Atlanta, which is where I had moved to Memphis from, and found women who would be willing to mentor and train. And then I used aspects of my then existing business to collect the experience and the hours that I needed.
Okay. All right. So, do you offer mentoring to women that may be wanting to get into the lactation work?
I do. I do it. Yeah. I act right now. I have 3 official mentees who are preparing to sit for their certification exam in October. The exam is offered twice a year. So they're ready to sit in October. And then I have many other little future lactation consultant sisters who reach out for information that they need here and there. But we're a nice little collective, well connected. We're usually meeting this time of year at various conferences in various parts of the country, and so we're definitely missing that now. But we're still finding ways to connect and uplift one another. Yep.
So how can how can we find you? How can those that are interested in this birth work, particularly lactation and maybe the postpartum doula piece, how can they connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to an extent, all under My Blossom Mom. So that's MYBLOSSOMOM. So you can find that, and it should pull up
My Blossom Mom.
Or My Blossom OM.
OM.
So
okay. Okay. So My Blossom OM, and that's on Facebook, IG, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay. Good.
Yes.
Ladies, are you registered for the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat? I'm so excited. We're going to Aruba, January 7th through the 11th, 2021. We're getting ready. We're packing our bags. We are getting ready for the next Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat in Aruba. Join me there for a week of reflection, of fun time, creative time with a wonderful group of women as we are putting ourselves at the top of our list, at the top of the year for self-care in Aruba at the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat. For more information, email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com. That's hello@drtonyalvarado.com so that you can register for the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat 2021 in Aruba. Meet me there. Well, I want to
Yeah.
shift just a little bit, Jada, because when I met you as a yoga instructor. I met you
Yeah.
at Tata's Fitness,
Yeah.
and I took several classes of that you taught,
Yeah.
that you teach there, and then I had you come and do some work with us. You were an instructor at our women's self care retreat at the
Yeah.
Harmonize Your Life Women's Self Care Retreat last year,
Mhm.
and I love yoga. I have a yoga class that I attend at the gym that I currently am a member of here at
Mhm.
Body Tech in Conyers, and Karen Cherry is my yoga instructor there. But I know that a lot of times there's a lot of myths around yoga,
Mhm.
particularly for Christians. We
Right.
hear that, oh, yoga, you shouldn't do yoga. It's new age. And, oh, they're meditating, which I don't understand why Christians have a problem with meditation
Meditating.
when the Bible teaches us to meditate on the law, Deuteronomy
Yes.
8, day and
Yes.
night. This book of the law shall
Yes.
not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, and then
Yes.
you will make your way prosperous, and you shall have good success. So I don't
That's right.
understand the spookiness around it, or why we shy away from it, particularly as Christians. I know there are more Christians getting involved in it, but
Mhm.
can you talk to us about yoga and how yoga brings harmony into our lives?
I can. Yes, absolutely. So, I discovered yoga, and I think that this is helpful for some uh, who are skeptical. I discovered yoga as a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
uh, number one. But number two, I was very active. I had been a cheerleader and a gymnast my entire life. I cheered through college. I, was tumbling and doing the whole thing. I went to one, and I stayed fairly fit for years after
Mm-hmm.
that. And I went to a yoga class in my gym, which was a YMCA around the corner from my apartment at the time. And I thought the class was incredibly boring. And
Mm-hmm.
I am, along with my boyfriend at the time, we got up and walked out, which please don't ever do that. But we got up and we walked out. We were like, this is so stupid. I was hyper flexible. He was not very flexible, so he also did not enjoy it. And we went back upstairs and continued to lift weights. Years later, I found myself with debilitating migraines, and the worst was a migraine that lasted for 8 days, did not let up at all for even a second. I ended up in the emergency room convinced that I had a brain tumor. It was not a brain tumor, it was a migraine that did not let up. I went to a neurologist and a cardiologist, and they trialed various types of medications, which I was not into medications
Mm-hmm.
at all. I did not do well on any of them. They either made me too lethargic or just out of it, or messed up my stomach, or didn't take the edge off of the migraine. I was on the computer, I think maybe even before Google. I don't think I called it. I don't think we were
Mm-hmm.
Googling anything, but
Mm-hmm.
I did a search and looked up migraines, and I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. I didn't do caffeine. I didn't do chocolate. I ate well. I exercised. The only thing that continued to show up on this list was yoga. You should try
Mm.
yoga, try yoga, try yoga. So I finally did because nothing else was working. And I went to one yoga class, and this now at this point low grade headache subsided, and it was the first day that I had had in, at this point, a month or so.
Mm.
And I went to the second class and felt better. Since that third class in 2004, I have had zero migraines, and that is a true fact,
Wow. Wow.
true
Wow.
story. So I just did not want to stop feeling good, so I continued to take yoga. It became a bit of an addiction for a period of time, and I practiced hot yoga, Bikram yoga, for the first 8 years of yoga. So that's that's that hot yoga at
Mm-hmm.
110 degrees
Mm.
or so. And it doesn't have to be nearly that extreme to be effective, but that's what worked for me. That's what gave me what I needed. And what I gained as a blossoming yogini is um, a practice in discipline, in focus,
Mm.
in meditation, even though meditation specifically, as we think about it, is not uh, is not observed in this particular type of yoga,
Okay.
but you end up getting into a very meditative state
Mm-hmm.
um, if you allow your mind to go there. So strength and balance and flexibility and focus
Mm-hmm.
and endurance and stamina and self forgiveness and self love just by being
Mm.
in that room are
Mm-hmm.
all of the aspects that all of the qualities that I gained while
Wow.
practicing yoga.
Wow.
And that is there for everyone. And none of that is what Satan ever are, right?
No,
So
no. He
it,
doesn't want you to have any of that. No. No
at
focus,
all.
no
No,
discipline, no
no,
self forgiveness, no self
no.
love. No,
Right,
please.
right,
So why
right.
wouldn't we as Christians want to go there? You know? Why wouldn't
Exactly,
we want to go there?
exactly. So
Exactly.
I think that a part of the mm, fear and hesitancy is around the idea that the way that we think about yoga in this country is that it's more religious than cultural, and that religion is linked to Hinduism
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
They, of course, have so that's two different religions altogether. So for some,
Mm-hmm.
that's enough to say, nope, I'm not interested. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
other part is the statues or the deities that are associated
Mm-hmm.
with these religions and these cultures, and we think that that is
Mm-hmm.
breaking the
Mm-hmm.
very first commandment, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we want no parts of that. But when you go a little bit deeper, then we see that so much of it is the same. We have more in common than we don't.
Right.
So when we talk about just breath, right? So how
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times does the Bible talk about breath and
Right.
breathing,
Mm-hmm.
the all of the aspects
The Holy
of
Spirit, the
the
whole the
Holy
word
Spirit.
the word in the Hebrew is ruach, and it means breath. So
It means
yes.
breath. It
Mm-hmm.
is the very life force,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what and so in yoga there are 8 limbs of yoga, 8 different components of yoga. The postures, the poses, the downward facing dog and warrior and all of those things are all 200 of them, or in some cases, 1,000 of them, we've lost count, are a part of one of the limbs of yoga. All
Mm.
of those postures are wrapped up into one limb of yoga. Another whole limb of yoga is breath and various
Mm.
types of breathing for various situations
Mm. Mm.
and various times in our life, various times of the day.
Mm.
So it's as important. Meditation is another part, and the higher you go, um, up this ladder, if you will, the closer you get to enlightenment, or what we call peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peace,
Mm-hmm.
eternal peace, right? Which you get to a point where everything just you
Mm-hmm.
see the good
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
everything. That's
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
what this
Mm-hmm.
highest
Mm-hmm.
level of attainment is really
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be managed through yoga, no matter how it's practiced. So I try to undo a lot if I'm in a space where clients are skeptical,
Mm-hmm.
then and I know that they're believers, we'll have this very frank conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise,
Because
I
you're a
just really
believer,
focus.
right? You're a member of,
I'm a
tell me,
believer.
because you're a member of, aren't you a member of Ray of Hope?
Ray of Hope Christian Church.
Yes, with my
Reverend
with
Dr. Cynthia L. Hale, your
that's
good
right,
girlfriend.
my good girlfriend, my mentor, and our soror. Yes,
Yes,
yes. So
yes.
I mean,
So,
yes, and that's what I tell people. I recently there was a conversation. I think I saw an article. We saw an article out where a teacher was teaching his students yoga. And it
mhm,
was an African American teacher. I want to say he was in New York or somewhere, and he was teaching his children in the classroom yoga. And he
right.
found that these children who had disciplinary issues, when he started teaching them yoga, he started seeing better behavior out of the
It's true.
children. And
It.
and this article was circulating on Facebook not too long ago,
Mhm.
and a well-meaning person in the clergy got into this banter about it, saying, we shouldn't do yoga. It's not of God. It's and the other. Um, and I just simply said, I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor. I'm a preacher, and I practice yoga. It's
Right.
there is we I don't understand why we won't open ourselves up as Christians to seeing other ways of living and being in the world and see the benefit, and not only that, to see how much of this stems from our Judeo-Christian background. And so,
Listen.
why do we have to allow other religions to take all this when we had it first?
Right. Right. We're just not too long ago coming off of Lent, where Jesus prayed and fasted for 40 days,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So so that is what when we think about yoga and meditation and being still, that's all that it is,
And how
right? I'm
many? I
sure he
mean,
was
but how many scriptures do we have about the mind? About
right.
all through the New Testament, Paul is talking about the mind, and Jesus is a
Exactly.
man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
So is
I mean,
he.
just
Uh-huh.
just the fruit of the spirit, temperance,
Uh-huh.
self control. All those things are a
Yes.
part of what we do in yoga, and so I encourage all of my listeners to, if you've not tried yoga, try it. Find you a class that you can enjoy. There are different kinds of yoga, just like you said. Can you give us the different kinds of yoga that you know of that we can involve ourselves
Yeah,
in?
so what we find mostly in gyms and yoga studios are as a variation of hatha yoga. That's Hatha.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most well known form of yoga, and just about every other branch of yoga that we might see, whether it's Bikram yoga or Vinyasa yoga, or the other yogas that we see, the other styles that we see in the gym, mostly come from hatha, and it's just where we are connecting movement with breath. That's
Mm.
it. That's
Mo-
that's that's what it is. It is
okay.
connecting movement,
Movement with breath.
breath. So
Whew.
one of the things that I'd like to remind clients of, especially because I teach multiple styles. I can teach a very gentle yoga to older adults. I can teach yoga in a chair. I can teach because I will say that while I started out practicing Bikram yoga, which is pretty intense, not in terms of the pace of the movements, but just the amount of really like fortitude that it takes to maintain the movements and the
Mm-hmm.
stillness in this
Mm-hmm.
hot room while
Mm-hmm.
sweat is dripping in
Mm-hmm.
all areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's where I started. But the first classes that I ever taught were two post rehabilitative patients that I had
Okay.
had.
Okay.
They're coming from a stroke or a heart attack or a shoulder injury or a fall down the steps, right? So I'm teaching them uh, yoga that is accessible to them, yoga that they can practice. I teach prenatal yoga, which is slightly different,
Mm-hmm.
and a more rigorous style vinyasa yoga, where there are a lot of fast-paced movements. At Tata's Fitness Center, I do a lot of slower stretching
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of body weight positions because
Mm-hmm.
they're athletes
Mm-hmm.
and recovering athletes and aspiring athletes, right? They're running hills every week and flipping over tires and all of these things. So they're capable, but because we do not utilize or access yoga the way that we should, that flexibility is just not
Mm-hmm.
there.
Right.
So we've got to open the mind
Mm-hmm.
um, to the yoga, but also open those joints and open those muscle
Mm-hmm.
groups.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And
so,
I think
so,
that's why I started going. I started going for the flexibility piece because
hmm
I work out. I'm avid with working out, and I realized that I was missing a very key part of my fitness when I wasn't doing yoga, especially doing it
right.
regularly. And so I recently started going back regularly to yoga because I realized that flexibility is so important. And you talk about injuries. I had a shoulder injury,
hmm
and my chiropractor actually, she was like, I want you to start doing yoga again. And honestly, I could not raise my arm above my left arm above my head for a while,
Mm.
but it was the combination of going to my chiropractor and going back to yoga and getting regular massages that really helped me with my range of motion. And now
It's true.
it's much better. And so the yoga was a missing key, a missing link for me. And when I added
Mhm.
that to my regimen, my self care regimen, it has just been wonderful. Just it's like an escape for me almost, really.
It is, and it's such an all-in-one combo. So you just right there, your shoulder rehab or recovery touched on a lot. So it increases your flexibility, yes, but in increasing your flexibility, it removes pain, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you're limited in your what's intended as your full range of motion, in order to create that limitation, other muscle groups have to be really in a spasm state all
Wow.
the time. So
Mm-hmm.
those muscles are remaining tight really to protect that movement that they think is going to be dangerous. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not that it's going to be dangerous at the very end, but your mind is just trying to protect you. So
Mm-hmm.
this is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga means union. It's a union between the mind and the body. And when we are trying to stretch out some of those larger muscle groups or
Mm-hmm.
joints that haven't, been anywhere in a long time, your mind is first saying, "Oh no, we don't do this. This is not what we do. We're going to stay right here." And then you stay in that position a little bit longer
Wow.
or go a little bit slower, and then your body and your mind begin to communicate. This is actually what happens. Your
Wow.
body and your
Your
mind
body and
begin
your
to
mind
communicate.
communicating. Wow.
Mhm.
I love it. That's that
Yep, and
harmony thing.
that's the
That's my
harmony.
word, harmony. Yes. Well, let me ask
Yeah.
you this, because this is our motherhood series and we're going to wrap up
Yeah.
here. So, what do you recommend for women who are pregnant, women who are about to deliver? How do you do yoga with them?
Yeah, so I love prenatal yoga and postnatal yoga, mom and baby yoga. We can do all of that, and who knows what all of this will turn out to be. But I've been doing yoga over FaceTime, yoga over Zoom. So
Okay.
perhaps
Okay.
we to continue that way, just to keep everybody nice and protected and
Right.
distant. But yeah, it's a thing that can definitely happen, and it's important because uh, bringing a life into the world
Mhm.
is a stressful thing, right? And we know that
Mhm.
stress, there can be
Mhm.
good stress and there can be bad
They
stress,
say it's the
and
closest we come to death.
the closest comes to death. Every system in our body is focused on
Mhm.
getting that baby out safely, and
Mhm.
that sometimes means that we lose blood, we lose
Mhm.
memories in some cases, we lose, our joints lock up. Like a lot of different things are happening just so we can get this baby out safely, right? So it's important to know what that control looks like and feels like, and how to control your breath, how to control after the baby,
Mhm.
your urine. So all of
The
this,
union
you know,
between the mind and the body. Mhm.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it can definitely be done, should be done. Lots of what we do looks like a luxury, right? It looks like it should be a luxury to have a doula, or sounds like it does. It looks like prenatal yoga is a luxury, something that you might give a man as a baby shower gift, or if a husband is trying to be extra sweet to his expecting wife, he'll do some of these things, or a prenatal massage. But I talk about really taking luxury and turning it into a lifestyle. These are the things that our bodies need and deserve. And certainly if you're growing a whole human person, you need and deserve a massage. You need and deserve a good stretch and guidance on stretching.
You deserve it.
You deserve it. It should be just a basic thing that happens. You deserve to have somebody look at your pelvic floor, or at least talk about it and say, hey, this pain that you're having, this urine that's leaking out, this inability to enjoy sex after you have your baby, those aren't normal things. They're common, but they're not normal. And there are ways to work on healing the pelvic floor and healing your abdominal muscles that we can address.
Wow.
That is, you deserve to, as a mother who's responsible for partly raising the next generation, this can be done for yourself.
Wow. For self-care. I love that.
Yes.
When you said turning a luxury into lifestyle, that is amazing. That right there. Whew. I hope every mother that's listening to this, some of us, I wish I had this 20 years ago when I was having babies.
For some of this, it's not too late. I hear moms who have 20-year-olds and they say, oh, my belly hasn't been right since I had my baby. I buy other stuff hasn't been right since I had my child. I had it right since I had my child. And all of those things can
they can still be issues. Right. You're right. So again, how do we find you, Jada?
So I am Jada Right. You can find me anywhere that you see Blossom Health and Maternal Wellness, on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. That would be at MyBlossomOM or MYBLOSSOM. Facebook, IG, or Twitter.
All right. And so we will make sure that our mothers that are listening, our future mothers that are listening, and some mothers like me that are almost 57 years old and still need to make sure my pelvic floor is working.
That's right. That's right.
So but certainly around that yoga piece and just the whole wellness piece. I love what you said about taking a luxury and turning it into a lifestyle, and that we deserve it. Mom, you deserve it. Not just on Mother's Day, you deserve it every day to take care of yourself. Thank you so much, Jada. Thank you for being our guest on Harmonize Your Life, conversations on self-care for women of color. It is more than a delight to be connected to you and to have you as a part of our conversation today. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com.